All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. 3 years ago, Kyle Neptune was given the keys to a Mercedes and told not to crash it. But not only did Neptune crash that car, he left it in pieces as well. Today, the Villanova Wildcats decided to move on from Kyle Neptune as their men's basketball coach. Now, Neptune took over for Jay Wright, who retired in 2022. And of course, in retiring, Jay Wright left some big shoes to fill as he led the Wildcats to a pair of national championships. Now, under Neptune, unfortunately for Villanova, they never made an NCAA tournament appearance. And on top of that, they never finished higher than sixth in the competitive Big East Conference. So you ask yourself, why didn't things work out for Kyle Neptune at Villanova? Look, after Jay Wright decided to exit stage right, the school turned to one of his former assistants in Neptune. But unlike it was when Wright took over at Villanova in 2001, the expectations for Kyle Neptune were much different because you go back to the way that things started for Jay Wright at Villanova. He didn't make the NCAA tournament in his first 3 years there either. He was a head coach like Kyle Neptune who hovered around 500. And finally, he began to break through. Um, the following year, he got Villanova to the Sweet 16. The year after that, they made the Elite Eight. And from that point forward, the Wildcats were consistently, um, an NCAA tournament team. He got them to the Final Four back in 2009. I always think about that epic Elite Eight showdown with Pitt. Then, he got them back to the Final Four in 2016. They won a national championship, came back in 2018, won it again. And his last year there in 2022, he got Villanova to the Final Four once more. And of course, the thought process was, you know what, we're going to pass the baton on to Kyle Neptune. He's one of Jay Wright's assistants, and he's going to keep the machinery going. Clearly, that was not the case. And, it was another disappointing season for Villanova. They just wrapped up a 19-14 campaign. Clearly, they're not going to be going to the NCAA tournament. They went to New York for the Big East tournament this week, needing to do a lot of work, probably needing to win it in order to get to the NCAA tournament. And of course, that didn't happen. And, Villanova went 19-14 this year. They went 10-10, or pardon me, 11-9 in the Big East, in spite of the fact that Eric Dixon led the nation in scoring this past season. Okay. Uh, to me, I feel like Neptune was never able to recruit like Jay Wright did. You think about it. Under Jay Wright, Villanova got the kids from the DMV. He got them from Philadelphia. He got them from New York and New Jersey as well. And that's something that whomever comes in, they're going to have to embrace. They're going to have to get back to that. Transfer portal, the NIL money is there at Villanova. So I think all of that's going to be important going forward for whomever is going to be the next person to lead this basketball program. Some names that you're going to hear about, like father, like son, first and foremost, because I think one guy that Villanova is probably going to be looking at is current New Mexico head coach Richard Pitino. And of course, if that name sounds familiar, his dad just won the Big East tournament as the head basketball coach at St. John's. Of course, before going to New Mexico, the younger Patino had a long tenure at the University of Minnesota. Really didn't work out there. He's really turned things around at New Mexico. They finished as the Mountain West regular season champions. I do believe that the Lobos are going to be NCAA tournament bound. But with all the uncertainty, going around in the Mountain West, and I think from a basketball standpoint, the Big East is a stronger conference than the Mountain West. And then, of course, from the standpoint that, hey, you could possibly be in the same league with your dad. And of course, at heart, Richard Pitino is a Northeast kid. He was born in Boston. Of course, he bounced around with his dad while on his dad's coaching journey. He was once upon a time an assistant coach under his dad at Louisville. That would be very intriguing right there if Villanova were to go that route. Okay. You look at another guy, I'm just throwing him out there. I'm not sure if he's going to be on Villanova's radar, but Anthony Grant at Dayton. He's 171 and 81 in 8 years at Dayton. He's got a tournament bid on his resume, and the Flyers are once again on the bubble this year. Could be a possibility there. I don't know. Somebody who I definitely feel like Villanova, should have on their radar, Drew Valentine at Loyola Chicago. He's 79 and 49 in 4 years with the Ramblers. He quickly made them, after they left the Missouri Valley Conference, one of the better teams in the A10. They got to the A10 tournament semis today before they fell to VCU. But I think Drew Valentine is somebody who is rising in the coaching ranks in the world of college basketball. There's rumors of potential mutual interest between Villanova and current Northwestern head basketball coach Chris Collins. He got the Wildcats to the NCAA tournament in the last 2 years. So if that were to be the case, he'd be leaving the Northwestern Wildcats for the Villanova Wildcats. But nonetheless, Collins, he showed eventually, and it took some time, that he was able to win, at a Northwestern school that's really not known for its athletics, especially for basketball. Although, it took some time. Somebody else that could be on Villanova's radar, and this one might be a tough one, but VCU's Ryan Odom. You look at him, he is a very fast rising candidate, and there's a lot of big job openings out there this year in the world of college basketball. So Villanova might have some competition there. But nonetheless, you look at Ryan Odom. He has Virginia Commonwealth on the verge of making the NCAA tournament. Be very interesting to see if VCU loses to George Mason tomorrow in the A10 tournament championship game if they get in at large bid. I'm just throwing it out there. But nonetheless, Odom already has on his resume one of the biggest, if not the biggest, upsets in NCAA tournament history. As back in 2018, he was a head coach at UMBC when they became the first 16 and only 16 seed team in NCAA tournament history to knock off a number one, as they knocked off Virginia. And it's funny because things might come full circle for Odom, because that same Virginia school currently has Odom on their radar right now. Nonetheless, if Virginia wants Odom and Villanova wants Odom, I'm not sure if Villanova can give Odom the Virginia type money that he wants. We got to wait and see uh, where he would decide to go there if he's the number one target for Villanova. We have to wait and see. But nonetheless, whomever it's going to be for the Wildcats, this is a very important hire, because if you are Villanova and with what you've been accustomed to under Jay Wright, and of course, clearly things didn't work out with Kyle Neptune, you cannot afford to get lost in the shuffle that is the Big East Conference. The Big East is definitely going to get 4 teams. They should get 5, in my opinion, for the NCAA tournament. But nonetheless, this is a league. It's a very competitive basketball league, and it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle in that league. You've got UConn and Dan Hurley. He's got back-to-back national championships. You've got Rick Pitino, who just led St. John's to the Big East Tournament Championship. And St. John's is about to be the 6th different team that he takes to the NCAA tournament. You've got a Thad Matta at Butler, who has a Final Four on his resume. I know it wasn't with Butler, okay, but still, formidable head coach. You've got Shaka Smart at Marquette, who has taken 3 different programs to the NCAA tournament. He also has a Final Four appearance on his resume. You've got Greg McDermott at Creighton, Ken English at Providence, Ed Cooley at Georgetown, Shaheen Holloway at Seton Hall. Okay, Sean Miller at Xavier, Chris Holtman at DePaul. So it's one of those where it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle, and you have to have a coach that's going to allow you to keep up with the Joneses in this league. And if you're Villanova, being in the middle of the pack in this league is not what you want. You want to be up there with Connecticut. You want to be up there with St. John's and Creighton and Marquette. And this is why Villanova made the decision to move on from Kyle Neptune today. So, like I said, this next hire is going to be very important because Villanova is going to need a coach who's going to give him that clout, who's going to give him that respectability. He's going to be able to get the Philly kids. And when I say dominate Philly, it's not just about the recruiting because if you look at Kyle Neptune's time at Villanova, not only were they basically a 500 program, they struggled against some of the schools in the Big Five. And of course, if you're Villanova, you want to stick your chest out and say, hey, you know what? We can beat Temple consistently. Let's get back to beating LaSalle and St. Joe's consistently. That didn't happen on Kyle Neptune's watch. And you figure struggling against the Big Five, being a mediocre team in the Big East, not making the NCAA tournament was a recipe for disaster. And at the end of the day, the school made the decision. You know what? Let's pull the plug on the Kyle Neptune era and go in a different direction. But like I said, this next hire is going to be extremely important. So let's see what the next couple of weeks, uh, produce. It's one of those. I truly do think that Ryan Odom from VCU is going to be high on their priority list. Might not get him, but don't be surprised if maybe Richard Pitino joins his dad in the Big East. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what's next for Villanova. But like I said, ultra important hire as they can ill afford to get lost in the shuffle that is the Big East Conference. Just look at Seton Hall as an example. This was a team that should have been in the NCAA tournament last year, won the NIT, were decimated by the transfer portal, and Seton Hall just finished last in the league. Okay, that just gives you an idea of how easy it is to get lost in the shuffle. So, like I said, ultra important hire for Villanova. So let's see what's next for the Wildcats, and let's see who the next coach is to lead their basketball program. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and like this channel, like this podcast, as well as subscribing to this channel. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.